Okay, hi. So I'm Taylor Mackey, and this is my course and project for African Studies. And I did mine on Malcolm X and his role in the Black Power movement. So I did it on Tiki Taki, which I did a timeline of his entire life and the main roles that he played in the um, Black Power movement. So here we go. So in 1925, Malcolm X was born named Malcolm Little in Omaha, Nebraska. He was born into a family of 8 children, where his father, Earl Little, was a Baptist minister, and he heavily supported the black nationalist leader, Marcus Garvey, and that's who Marcus Garvey was. Um, and then later on, in 1929, they were not able to avoid the white supremacists, and after being forced to relocate due to multiple death threats, they were unable to avoid them, which they were called the Black Legion, and their house was burnt down in Lansing, Michigan. Um, and then more tragedy ensued after Earl Little's body was found. Who is his father? His body was found on the town's trolley tracks. The family is sure that it's the work of the Black Legion, but it, on the police report, is ruled as an accident, as well as their house burning down is also ruled as an accident. And then soon after, Malcolm's mother suffers an emotional breakdown and is committed, and then her children are split up into various foster homes and orphanages. And then, flashback way forward, Malcolm X has now relocated to Boston and has been arrested on burglary charges and sentenced to 10 years of prison, but was given parole after serving 7 years. And then when he was released from prison, he became a devout follower of Elijah Muhammad, and Muhammad taught that white society was actively working to keep African Americans from empowering themselves and becoming successful. And that's Elijah Muhammad. And then soon after, Malcolm Little, therefore, changes his name to Malcolm X. And he said that his previous surname Little represented the slavery that his ancestors had lived through, and he didn't want that to represent himself. After that, Malcolm X meets Elijah Muhammad in Chicago, and he then becomes a minister and the national spokesman for the Nation of Islam. And to get the message out, Malcolm X used newspaper columns, radio broadcasts, television to get the Nation of Islam's message out across the United States. And it is credited to him that he increased the membership of the Nation of Islam from just 500 in 1952 to 30,000 in 1963. Since Malcolm X joined the Nation of Islam and became such a prominent spokesperson in it, he gathered the attention of the government and the FBI, who later infiltrated the Nation of Islam, which he was the spokesperson for, and he was kind of like representing in himself. They infiltrated it with bugs and wiretaps and cameras to monitor what the group was doing and what they were planning. Even it went so far that an FBI agent posed as Malcolm X's bodyguard, which is a little bit crazy. So that all happened within 1952 and 1953 by the time he got released and all of that. And then in 1958, I think that's it. Yeah, so, went way back. So in 1958, Malcolm X meets a nurse named Betty Sanders, meets and marries. It's his future wife. There they are together. And she is said to be the only person that he would trust with his entire life, which is kind of sweet. It means a lot. So then, flash forward a little bit, we're going to go up a couple of years. So, Malcolm loved Muhammad, and he was his mentor, and he believed a lot in him and what he was preaching, which is why he continued to go out and do the work that he did. And he learns of Elijah Muhammad's that he's committing adultery of up to 6 people that are not his wife. And Muhammad asks Malcolm X to help cover up his indiscretions and to help stop the press from finding out about his adultery, because that's not what his religion represents. And Malcolm X says no to that. And he feels guilty that he has led so many people into such a deceitful organization that he believes is now full of lies. And then soon after that, Malcolm X is silenced by Muhammad for a period of 90 days. And it's said that the public statement was said that Malcolm X was silent for a comment that he made about Kennedy's assassination. The comment was saying that he never foresaw that the chickens would come to roost so soon. But Malcolm believed that it was for other reasons and more for Muhammad's personal gain. Also, that Malcolm X didn't help cover up the fact that Muhammad was committing adultery. Then fast forward. And in 1964, Malcolm X decides to leave the Nation of Islam and form his own called the Muslim Mosque Incorporated. And then after he forms that, Malcolm decides to go on a pilgrimage to Mecca. And before that, he was a very angry, kind of violent, like promoting a lot of different things than he did after he came back. And he comes back from Mecca and his pilgrimage, and in Mecca, he embraced the true Islam, and he returns to the United States with a very different opinion of his opposite, of the race opposite to him, which is Caucasian. And now when he speaks, he preaches to all races. And then after his return from his pilgrimage, there are many attempts on his life, and he rarely goes anywhere without a bodyguard anymore. That's not good. It's kind of scary, but it proves to be valid because on February 14th of 1965, Malcolm X's home, where him, his wife, and his 4 daughters, was firebombed. But luckily, the whole family escaped and they were all safe for a very brief period of time, which leads to the assassination of Malcolm X, where at a speech that he was giving, 3 close-range gunmen shot him 15 times, and he was pronounced dead once he got to the hospital. And so many people were very devastated by this. He had so many great followers, and his family and his wife was very devoted. His children were very devoted. So that, and it's a big turning point in history, because after Malcolm X was shot and killed, it was said to be the start of the Black Arts Movement, which then ended in 1975, but it started in 1965 with the murder of Malcolm X, and it promoted people to branch out and to explore other opportunities that they wouldn't have had before. It gave them the motivation, it gave them the ambition, it gave them the ability overall. They believed that they could do something else. So after the assassination, they had the funeral very soon after, and 1,500 people attended Malcolm X's funeral in Harlem. And this church held his funeral, despite the fact that him and his family, the bishop, were getting death threats for hosting Malcolm X's funeral. And it is to be believed that the death threats were coming from the Nation of Islam that he had previously left. But all in all, Malcolm X had a very busy, short life. He impacted so many people in many different ways. He went from being in prison, he went from having a very troubled family life to creating a loving family with his wife, who later passed away. It is actually said that she passed away from a fire started by her grandson, who was actually named for Malcolm X. But he did a lot in his life, and he impacted a lot of people, and he's now a major part of history, which is why I decided to do my course end project on him because I believe that he was a great part of the Black Power movement, and he pretty much like helped create it along with Martin Luther King.